So we've talked about Western Canada,
Yes.
which was ugly last year.
Yes.
There was an area though of Canada that had a beautiful summer.
Stupendous, I used the
Like
word.
it was amazing.
Yes.
What can Ontario farmers expect this season? You can't possibly tell me they're going to have as nice of a summer this year as they did
No
last
way,
year.
no way. I mean, and you know what I found? That farmers weren't talking about it last year. And I think they felt they were going to jinx it. If they said something about it while the season was progressing. Sean, you could not have manufactured a better year. They were on, we had the warmest spring on record. They were on the fields in March.
Yeah.
They could plant. They had a little touch of frost there in May, so
Right.
the asparagus crop.
It blackened some corn, but it recovered right away.
Yeah, it did. And some parts of southwestern Ontario were not hit by it, but places in the Peterborough, eastern Ontario were touched. And,
Guelph, I remember.
Guelph, that's right. And the orchards in some of the apple orchards in eastern Ontario and also in the Annapolis Valley were hit a little bit, but they recovered because the weather after that was ideal in terms of when you needed rain, you got it.
Oh.
There was no irrigation needed.
No.
The warm temperatures, and you know, let's face it, no humans don't like smog, and crops don't like smog. It was almost smog free, and yet you had all of these huge number of days with temperatures above 30. And then the harvest was dry and sunny. As I say, farmers saw a year that they'll never see again in their lifetime.
So what's going to happen this year?
Well, clearly it's not going to be like last year. I'm sitting on the fence here. Again, you know, there's not a lot of clues. La Nina gives you no clues about the summer. I wish it did.
Right.
Then we'd feel confident to say what we think is going to be. We know that clearly, and it's quite variable, the conditions right now. In parts of eastern Canada, the snowfall totals have been below normal. So but that's all right because they had a wet fall, you see. So we're going to see that's going to balance off. So there's not the issue there. I think that certainly the growing season won't start as early as last year because of what we're saying is normal temperatures to cooler than normal, not the record warm that we had last year. So I would say that clearly they're in better shape than their western colleagues. But, and I certainly think that it won't be as desirable as it was last year, but there's nothing to suggest that it will be nature balancing things off. In other words, you know, you got all the good news last year, now you're going to get the bad news. Even in severe weather. I mean, there wasn't even like hail and blowdown and things to kind of beat you up. Like from that point of view, it was a tame year from that point of view.
It was difficult last year. You know, you would when you'd go out to Ontario and talk to farmers, conditions were so perfect that it was almost like, hey, what's wrong? And like you said, they didn't want to jinx it, right?
No.
And there was people saying, oh, we need if we don't get a rain in the next 2 weeks, you know, we could have problems. It would rain.
It would. I mean, it was like nature was listening to them. You know, somebody was listening to them, and you know that doesn't happen. It's just luck. Sometimes it's luck.
Right.
We saw a lot more American air, and so therefore
what is American air? Obama air.
Obama air. I mean, it tends to be warmer, more humid, and tends to have a lot of pollution. But the problem was it was a wet summer. And you look back, you know, it was probably the third wettest in 60 years. But that didn't mind. People didn't, even city folk didn't mind because it was a warm rain. You see, it was because you know the year before was cool and wet. The 2 years before were cool and wet. Oh, they made up for the shortfalls of the previous 2 years. It wasn't as if they've had a bountiful situation for the last 10 years.
Right.
They've had some tough weather, but last year, as I say, it couldn't have been better.
So would you use the word normal for this summer in Ontario as well?
I would, although I have been saying that there is no such thing as normal anymore. The normal is expect the unexpected, is really what we're coming down to. And that is sort of a theme that I've been talking about over the last few years. I mean, I always felt that the past was a guide to the future. I don't believe that anymore. I think the challenges for farming is going to be dealing with the kind of uncertainty. I mean, dealing with too cold, too warm, too hot, too dry, too wet, sometimes all in the same growing season. You know, you can have too much rain and too little rain in the same growing season. So I think it's going to be a real challenge because nature seems to be
doing things differently.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Dave. We'll talk to you again soon.
Great job.
Thanks.